Hello, I am Jake Collins, and this is my commentary for the 10th episode of The Mummy the Animated Series, The Boy Who Would Be King. It's not a very apt title, really. Jin Wu is king. In fact, he's the Emperor of China, and he doesn't particularly want to be either, certainly in some ways. I don't think the title can be referring to Alex. He's not the boy who would be king, even if he is destined to be kind of a king in some ways. So it's a strange title and doesn't quite work out, but never mind, the episode is brilliant. Here we're discussing the trail of the scrolls, and Jonathan saying why were the scrolls of thieves traipsed all around the world by various people, Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, and now, apparently, Marco Polo. Yes, there's another name in the mix. Marco Polo apparently is supposed to have brought a great treasure, which they're thinking might be the Scrolls of Thebes, and isn't, obviously, to China. So suddenly Marco Polo's in the mix, and I really don't see the point of that, because we've already had earlier in the series, we're going to follow in the footsteps of Alexander the Great, and China is among the locations where he might have been with the scrolls, so we could have just gone back to Alexander the Great here instead of bringing in Marco Polo. But again, it doesn't really matter. The best episode yet. 10 out of 10. Absolutely brilliant stuff from start to finish. Again, the characterisation on Alex is quite wonderful, in both the script and the voice work, and his interactions with Jin Wu are excellent. A particular highlight is Alex's interest in the old sensei character's teachings, and his subsequent use of what he's learned to get a decent amount of control over the Manacle at last. In my opinion, Alex would have done very well to investigate the possibility of coming back to the Forbidden City for a longer period in the near future to continue his studies, rather than relying on Ardeth Bay and his highly questionable Medjai training scheme. That is so true. All of that review, and particularly that bit of speculation, possibility for a different Season 2 that I mentioned at the end there, perhaps in some ways a better Season 2, and yet in other ways it would have to omit certain characters that I do like very much, but more discussion about that in the future, I'm sure. We've just met Jin Wu, and of course, quite a familiar setup. We're meant to be surprised, perhaps we're not. We've really probably guessed from the title that he is in fact the Emperor running away from the palace, and this is where we find out for sure, and we meet, as I call him there, the old sensei character, Lin Cho, as he's usually referred to in this, or Lin Chow, as he's once referred to. It's spelt Lin Chow on the movie database. So we'll have to see what I call him when I mention him throughout. Maybe I'll go with Lin Chow. I've mentioned Digimon before on one of these commentaries, the Black Forest it was, and I'm going to mention it again now, because the voice of Jin Wu, fans of Digimon should certainly recognise as the voice of Izzy, Mona Marshall doing that exact same voice, and quite an appropriate thing to do. And she does excellent work with Jin Wu, bringing him to life, and he is one of my very favourite friends for Alex, companion for Alex. He's used very well in various ways in this episode. One thing you may notice about this, certainly after watching it a couple of times, is that it's the first episode without Imhotep. He's not even mentioned. The Scrolls of Thebes and the ongoing quest are driving the episode. But Imhotep is not mentioned, doesn't appear, and as I've said previously, he's not needed. There's plenty to fill the episode without trying to shoehorn Imhotep in, and this episode is written by Tom and Greg, unsurprisingly, because it's a very significant, important, and very well done episode. And they realised, Tom and Greg, Well, we don't need Imhotep. Let's not try and force him in and spoil it. Here we get some of the interaction between Alex and Jin Wu. Very well done. Here is one of Jin Wu's whipping boys. But of course he's not being whipped. He's writing lines as punishment for the Emperor. In English, strangely, not in Chinese. And this bit of interaction reminds me of Disney's Aladdin, which I've mentioned on these commentaries far more than I probably thought I would originally. But Alex is saying, wow, you're the luckiest kid in the world getting people to be punished for you. And Jin is like, well, not really, I'm a prisoner in my own palace. And Alex sympathises with him about not being taken seriously because you're young. And it's just a very well done piece of interaction between the two boys, neither of whom would be king. And adds a lot to the episode, and now they're playing around together on the trampoline. And of course this trampoline will prove significant later in the episode as they use it to escape. And here's Lin Chao coming to drag Jin Wu off to his Tai Chi lesson. But this is the most useful lesson, as in organised period of study, that Alex will take part in anywhere in the Mummy the Animated Series. As you can see there, Jin Wu doesn't think much of Tai Chi, but Lin Chao has noticed the Manacle of Osiris and gives Alex here the most useful talk that any grown-up gives to Alex throughout the series. A cup without a handle is a bowl, but a handle without a cup is useless. And of course the Manacle of Osiris is the handle. Alex is the bowl. The power comes as much from you as it does from the Manacle. And Lin Chao isn't saying there that that's because you need to be the Supreme Medjai or anything to have that type of power within to activate the hidden powers of the Manacle. You just need to be Alex O'Connell or another similarly mental fortitude-filled person. And as you see here, Alex gets very interested in what Lin Chao has to say and has to teach him, and is going to use what he's learned and what he's now thinking about to great effect later in the episode to, as I say in the review there, get a decent amount of control over the Manacle, specifically to successfully utilise Medjai Sinaharbek, which, as everyone remembers, was discovered in the previous episode, and Alex has already tried to read out the incantation and activate the Manacle earlier in this episode, and it hasn't worked, as he said to Lin Chao, but it doesn't work. But now he's realised it's not going to work from reading off the paper, it's going to work from coming from within himself. And as you see here, Jin Wu comes up to manipulate Alex emotionally, and Alex is still practicing his Tai Chi, focusing his mind, and obviously his interest has been sparked, and it's, as I say, it's the most useful bit of study, learning he's going to do in the entire series, and it allows him to use the Manacle effectively, successfully, by the end of the episode. So that's absolutely brilliant stuff. And as I say in my review, to get the Manacle under full control and use this in the final defeat of Imhotep, Alex would have done much better to see about coming back here to the Forbidden City for a period of study. He would have found that much better than Ardeth Bay and his Medjai training that messes so much with Alex's head. But there we go, an alternative Season 2 that lives only in the minds of those who see the potential in this one episode. And in many ways would have been better than Secrets of the Medjai, but there we go, as I say. There are certain things about that I do like, so let's not dwell on that anymore at the moment. And here's this dragon shrine where Jin Wu has manipulated Alex into coming to with him. We're going to prove that we're not children. And as you see here, Alex can be goaded into continued naughty child activity by, you're a coward, come on, let's do it. Hey, who are you calling a coward? Alex, despite his many excellent qualities, is never unbelievably perfect or too heroic. He's a protagonist with just the right number of flaws you want to see in the protagonist, so that's why he works so well, I think, as a lead character. And Jin Wu very much in over his head. I am the Emperor, and I command you. No, the dragon's not going to listen to that. Is Alex going to successfully utilise the Manacle here? Well, not just yet, actually. It's kind of hard to concentrate when you're being barbecued. But again, this is good characterisation for Jin Wu. Bit of rebellion. Bit of being in over his head, not really being in touch with the real world, and relying on Alex here to get him out of trouble. And very good interactions between the pair of them. Works very well. Yes, I don't know if this is a particular homage to Ishii and her surfing lessons that she gave Alex earlier in the series. Surfs up, surfing on these dragon scales. But perhaps it is. Pretty cool scene, anyway, of Alex thinking on his feet and getting them out of trouble. And as I have said in many other commentaries, that's what Alex is best at. Thinking on his feet in the field and carrying out great acts of heroism. And when the Manacle does let him down, he's more than capable of falling back on his own natural skills and resourcefulness. And now we see more of his rather out of touch with the real world character. He just wants to forget the whole incident. The word of the Emperor is law, so if Jin Wu forgets the whole incident hasn't happened as far as he's concerned, but as we're about to find out, that's not how the dragon sees things. He finds that a MacGuffin is what we need to bring the dragon under control, send it back to where it came from, which I found a bit disappointing just now. The staff that sends back the dragon is a MacGuffin that's here at the Forbidden City. But this is a great scene, more great interaction between Alex and Jin Wu. Alex will stand up to anyone who needs standing up to, physically if necessary, and in this case, mentally. He's not going to let anyone tell him that what he knows is true is not true. The word of the Emperor is law, says Jin Wu. Even if your word is a lie, says Alex. How dare you gainsay the Emperor? How dare you say there was no dragon when it nearly flame-broiled both our butts? I mean, that's absolutely brilliant interaction there. They had some friendly interaction earlier, some peer pressure interaction to follow it up, and there Alex really stands up to Jin Wu. As I say, he'll stand up to anyone who needs standing up to. But as I'll go on to point out in a minute, of course, Alex is not one to bear a grudge when there's important work to do. You see already his potential as a great leader of men, and indeed women. Which is certainly something that is built on in Season 2. One episode in particular, my very favourite episode. Which I'll go on to say plenty about in times to come. Jin Wu learns his lesson here, doesn't he? By denying the existence of the dragon. What's happened? Oh, he's got Lin Chao buried in all this rubble. So Jin Wu is a very well used character. He has his good points and his bad points, some of which are his fault and some of which really aren't. And he goes on a journey during which he interacts very well with Alex in several different ways. So yes, a very well used guest kid, guest friend, companion for Alex. Excellent stuff. And here's this bit I was just mentioning. Alex comes in to talk to Jin Wu, who's all full of remorse, as you would be. And Alex is like, instead of, I told you so, now come and help me get rid of the dragon. He's like, well, anyone can make a mistake, even the Emperor. It's not too late to do the right thing. Simple, effective, reassuring, emotionally supportive, absolutely wonderful stuff from Alex there. As I say, in my review, both in the script and in the voice work. Lin Chao reminds Alex here, the power is within. It's not just an incantation. The power to move that which is without comes from within you. And as we're getting to the denouement now, you can be fairly sure that Alex will be able to use that information and gather his own mental fortitude and use the Manacle successfully, which is a great conclusion to the episode and something to include here at this point in the series, and works really, really well. Of course, first we have to get out of the way. Were the Scrolls of Thebes here? Was that what Marco Polo had brought as a gift, the great treasure? Well, as it turns out, no, it wasn't. And as Evie and Jonathan are here going to discover, what was the great treasure that Marco Polo brought? Olive oil. Not the Scrolls of Thebes at all. So really, another dead end on the journey looking for the scrolls, but it's fine because it's the setup, it's the reason they're here for an absolutely fantastic episode. I just do find it slightly disappointing that they're not here because they're following in the footsteps of Alexander the Great coming to China, because he was in China, like they kind of implied at the beginning of the series. And Quest has got all muddled up and messed up, and as I say, doesn't really stand up to nitty-gritty scrutiny, which is a bit of a shame, but never mind. Still a brilliant episode, so the nuts and bolts of how and why we got here really are irrelevant. Just like Godzilla and every other large cartoon dragon or griffin or something like that, this one's had some babies now. I mean, you always see that, don't you? I'm thinking of an episode of He-Man with a griffin and the Godzilla movie, but it always happens. And here we go! Alex pulls himself together, concentrates really hard, you can see it in his face there, and uses the power of telekinesis successfully to get the staff. Hooray! And neither is that enough. He's going to do it again in a moment, moving a statue to bash the dragon to stop the dragon from dragging them, Alex and Jin Wu, with it back into this box where it's going into, back to sleep, I suppose. One more time, says Alex. Medjai si Nahabek. And here we go. He uses it successfully again. In the heat of battle, he gathers his mental fortitude and uses it successfully, and everything is as it should be. And that's, as I say, when Alex is at his best. Hey, Mum, did you see that? I can control the Manacle. And then, whoops, oh dear, he made a barrel of olive oil fly over their heads and crash into the wall. Oh, guess I need a bit more practice. But of course, the important thing, when the chips are down, when it really counts, Alex is someone very much to rely on, as has been proven in that sending the dragon back sequence there. I'm sorry your journey here was wasted. Oh, not at all, says Alex. Look how much control I've got over the Manacle now. And he quotes some sort of thing about knowledge gained falling off a bicycle there that Lin Chao has apparently told him, but it would have been better, I think, if he quoted that cup without a handle thing, which is much more appropriate to the Manacle itself, and sums up very nicely what Alex has learned from Lin Chao. Bit of a strange insertion of a bicycle metaphor that we haven't actually heard said. It would have been nice to refer back to the lesson that we saw and heard specifically on the screen, but there we go. Tut wasn't in that episode either, was he? There we go. I've not really noticed that before. He's not hanging around, running around, doing various bits to help out Alex. They could have put him in, but it was definitely right not to put in Imhotep and Weasler. And certainly in Season 2 you'll see that Imhotep and Weasler do become very much an aspect of the show that's not compulsory. Even if they do manage to use them well occasionally, you can certainly do very good episodes very well without them. But do join me again for a commentary on the next episode, which, as I will say, has Imhotep and Weasler in it, but doesn't need them at all. It's the werewolf episode, Howl.